Today I'm going to talk about the death of a young actress by the name of Anissa Jones, who is on a television program called Family Affair, which ran for 5 seasons from 1966 to 1971. She played the character of Buffy. This is her cookbook. And she was the twin of another actor, but not really in real life, but they played twins on the show, named Johnny Whitaker. The show ran for 5 seasons, and there were 138 episodes, and she was in every single episode. She was also in a movie called The Trouble with Girls in 1969, the Elvis movie. And her last appearance was on the show called Laugh In, Rowan and Martin's Laugh In, and that was filmed in 1971.
Well, it's time to say goodnight, Dick.
Good night, Dick.
Good night, Dick.
Good night, Dick.
She does sort of symbolize the beginning of the genre of child stars that have gone bad. She died when she was only 18 years old in 1976, and we're going to go into that today. If you stick around till after the video or till after I discuss this autopsy, I'll be making a recipe from Buffy's cookbook. And also, I'm going to show you something that still exists on the sidewalk near Anissa's house, where she lived in Playa del Rey, California. I'm sort of surprised this is still there. I went out this last weekend to have a look at it, and I'll tell you a little bit more about it later on in the video. But so stick with me after this video. We'll go through the very, very serious part of it first, and then I'll go to the more lighthearted part of it, making a dish of Buffy's and showing you that incredible artifact that still exists in Playa del Rey that Anissa left herself. And her name was Anissa. I guess people were really particular about that. People would often say Anissa, but it was Anissa is how she pronounced the name, how the name was pronounced. So this is actually her autopsy report. And it's dated, date of the call was at 1:10 p.m. on August 28, 1976. The autopsy was done a day later. But what I have for you today is the investigative summary and a little bit of there's no graphs in the autopsy. There's no illustrations of the body. This is basically the description of the body, but not with the illustration, sorry. Okay, so the investigative summary. The body of the decedent, who is Anissa Jones, was viewed by the county coroner, Selwyn Thomas. She was found lying supine, which is face up, and on the floor adjacent to the waterbed in an upstairs bedroom at the place of her death. The body, clothed only in white boxer-type shorts, was cold and full rigor mortis, and that was of a well-developed, well-nourished Caucasian female. There were 4 electrocardiogram pads on the anterior surface of her body. There were signs of postmortem lividity on the anterior surface of the body in the area of the face, neck, arms, and chest, which means she died face down. And she'd been dead long enough that we talked about this in other autopsies, that the blood, once it stops pumping, settles down, and then after a period of time, it becomes obvious in the face and the bottom of the body, whatever's touching the floor, the blood slowly sinks down to the bottom and makes that discoloration, which is called lividity. Now, the thing about this autopsy report is that it names about 5 or 6 different people who were young, very young at the time of this. Maybe they were 18, maybe they were 17, maybe they were 19, but they were very young. But there are so many names, it's really kind of difficult for me to differentiate. I can't say person 1, person 2, person 3, because the names are important. So what I'm going to do is try to stay with just the last name, not the first name, and hopefully that'll all make sense. So bear with me as I do that as I'm reading this report. So her right arm was flexed at the elbow with the forearm and hand extended upwards. There were no marks of trauma noted on or about her body. Identification was established at the scene by papers found in the decedent's wallet and by a friend, Hennessy. That's the last name of a female, Hennessy, in whose residence the decedent's demise occurred. Found on the floor on the opposite side of and adjacent to the waterbed was an envelope. Printed on the envelope was the name Don C. Looks like Mishosh, MD, and below the name were the words family doctor and an address in Torrance, California. Adjacent to and to the right of the doctor's name was written the number 50, followed by the word Seconal, and below that was 1.5 grams. On the line designated for a name was written the name Jones. At the bottom right-hand corner of the line labeled bedtime were the words take one at. Investigation by the Oceanside Police Department and the San Diego County Coroner's Office revealed the following information. At 12:29 p.m. on August 28, 1976, the Oceanside Fire Department received a telephone call from a person who gave the name of Hennessy and requested an ambulance for a possible drug overdose victim at the address on Littler Lane in Oceanside, California. The paramedics and the engine company unit responded to the call and arrived at 12:34 p.m. The decedent, Anissa, clad only in white boxer-type shorts, was observed supine, lying face up, on a waterbed in an upstairs bedroom and was covered from the neck down by a sheet and blanket. Rigor mortis was noted in the neck, jaw, and extremities. No vital signs could be detected. The decedent was then removed from the bed to the floor, where extensive cardiopulmonary resuscitation measures were instituted to no avail. This was interesting to me, and I looked it up, but I couldn't quite find out what this meant. It said a datascope was placed into operation and a strip was sent to Tri-City Hospital for Dr. Mitchell to diagnose. After reviewing the strip and having the decedent's lack of vital signs explained to him via radio, Dr. Mitchell advised the paramedics to cease resuscitation efforts and leave the body at the scene for the coroner. So something called a datascope, they would somehow send a strip of something to this hospital, and the doctor could examine it remotely. And so by radio, he said basically, stop, she's dead. So I just found it interesting. I couldn't really find something definitive about that process. So at 12:30 p.m. on the 28th of August, 1976, Oceanside Police Officer Graff was dispatched to the scene. On his arrival at 12:37 p.m., 7 minutes later, he observed fire department personnel involved in cardiopulmonary resuscitation activities on the decedent. When it was obvious that the decedent was expired, Officer Graff telephoned the Oceanside Police Department and requested that supervisors and detectives be dispatched to the scene. While awaiting the arrival of the detectives, Officer Graff had the 8 juveniles present gather in the living room and make written statements as to their possible involvement in the incident and the reasons for their being at the residence. At approximately 12:45 p.m., Oceanside Police Detectives Wagner and Kruglovich arrived at the residence and began their investigation. After viewing the body, Detective Wagner excused the fire department, and through the Oceanside Police dispatcher, he requested a deputy coroner at the scene. While awaiting the arrival of the deputy coroner, the detectives interviewed several juveniles in the residence, including the following. I'll just use the last names. Coven, 17 years old. Mikado, 17 years old. Hennessy, 14 years old. Boy. Statlander, 18 years old. Now, there was one of them, the Statlander, who falsely identified himself as Joe Mark King and gave his residence address as a different address than his own. His true identity and were made a positive by his own parents, and they corrected it. He subsequently stated that he had lied about his name and address because he was frightened and was afraid to tell the truth. In addition to being interviewed by the detectives, the juveniles gave written statements concerning the events prior to and the subsequent to the decedent's demise. The statements of other juveniles interviewed by the detectives were found not to be pertinent to the investigation. So the thing is, you're going to hear about drugs, and drugs are bad. Know this about drugs, and there are certain things I'm going to block out because it's just the way YouTube acts, and it's not promoting anything. It's just be good to yourselves and don't do drugs, and that's basically the definition here. I'm not going to say the certain words because I get in trouble for that. So okay. So the residence of the house is occupied by the name Hennessy, which includes the daughter, who was the friend of Anissa. The father is a Federal Service fireman, and at the time of the incident, he was on duty in Fallbrook, California. He informed Oceanside police personnel that Anissa and Coven, the friend, had his permission to stay at the residence at approximately August 22nd to August 28th. Approximately 1 week prior to this incident, exact date unknown, the decedent and Coven drove from the Playa del Rey area to the Hennessy residence in the decedent's automobile. Coven alleges that the decedent asked him to accompany her, and that after they arrived at the Hennessy residence, Helen, the 14-year-old, invited them to stay with her. On August 26, 1976, the decedent and Coven drove back to Playa del Rey so the decedent could pay some bills and contact the woman called Mikado, the girl called Mikado. At an unknown time on August 27th, 1976, Anissa went to a physician's and obtained a supply of Reds, which is slang for Seconal capsules. At approximately 9:30 p.m. on the 27th, the decedent, Coven, and Mikado, and Statlander drove to the Hennessy residence in the decedent's automobile. They arrived sometime between 11:30 p.m. and midnight. Shortly after their arrival, Statlander and Mikado retired for the night. Statlander in a bedroom by himself, and Mikado in the young Hennessy girl's bedroom. The decedent and Coven then went into a bathroom and got high on a white powder. The decedent inhaled the white powder, and Karen directly via needle gave it to herself. Then they went into the room next to the younger Hennessy's bedroom and smoked angel dust. Gosh, I mean, they were partying. Fencidladine is the technical word for angel dust, and marijuana, and the decedent consumed some downers, Seconals. They then went into the bedroom of which the decedent was found expired, and Coven went to sleep. At approximately 3 a.m. on the 28th of 1976, the decedent went into the younger Hennessy's bedroom, awakened the young Hennessy girl, and conversed briefly with her. The young Hennessy girl stated that the decedent at the time could hardly walk. Shortly after, the decedent left the room, and the young Hennessy girl went back to sleep. At approximately 9:30 a.m., the young Hennessy girl and Mikado obtained the keys to the decedent's automobile from Coven, who awakened with difficulty. Mikado then drove the young Hennessy girl to the residence of another girl, 12 years old, by the name of Cirardelli, and they gave her address. Mikado then drove Hennessy and Cirardelli to the Hennessy residence. On their arrival, Anissa and Coven were still asleep, so Mikado drove Hennessy and Cirardelli to the El Camino Country Club restaurant for breakfast. Hennessy and Cirardelli went to the restaurant, and Mikado returned to the Hennessy residence with the intention of picking up Hennessy and Cirardelli in approximately 1/2 hour. Upon arrival to the residence, Mikado took a shower, during which Coven and Statlander left the restaurant in the decedent's automobile and drove somewhere for breakfast without Mikado's knowledge. I mean, these people didn't know what the hell they were doing. These kids were all over the place. At approximately 11:30 a.m. on the 28th of August, 1976, after she showered, Mikado entered the decedent's bedroom through an open door to awaken Anissa. At that time, the decedent was lying on her stomach on the bed, and Mikado was unable to awaken her. She then turned the decedent over and noticed the discoloration on the decedent's face and that she was not breathing. She then panicked and ran out of the house toward the El Camino Country Club restaurant, where Hennessy and Cirardelli were having breakfast. As she was running down the street, she was stopped by a male occupant of one of the homes on the tract, who was watering his lawn. Mikado informed him of her plight, and the unidentified man drove her for the few blocks back to the restaurant, picked up Hennessy and Cirardelli, and drove them back to the Hennessy residence. Shortly thereafter, Coven and Statlander returned to the residence to find Mikado and Hennessy screaming. It's not known precisely what transpired between the time Mikado, Hennessy, Cirardelli, and Coven and Statlander returned to the residence after Mikado found Anissa expired. However, the young Hennessy girl informed Deputy Coroner Thomas that the decedent was nude when Mikado found her expired, and that Standler had placed the boxer-type shorts on the decedent before the arrival of the fire department. Hennessy also informed Deputy Thomas that she had called for an ambulance. In addition, Coven and Mikado had departed from the scene in the decedent's automobile prior to the arrival of Officer Graff. The reasons for their departure are unknown to the undersigned, because it is a witness statement that is signed by somebody. However, shortly after Officer Graff arrived at the scene, Coven and Mikado returned in the decedent's automobile, which was subsequently driven to the Oceanside Police Department parking lot for safekeeping. While Deputy Coroner Thomas was at the scene, he was advised by one of the detectives that the decedent's mother was on the telephone. Deputy Thomas conversed with Mrs. Jones for a short period of time, during which time she stated that the decedent, quote, was not involved in drugs, and that she, quote, had only heard of a person named Butch in the past week, referring to Coven. That was the nickname of Coven. There has been nothing adduced or brought forth during the investigation into this death to indicate that Anissa's demise was the result of anything other than an accidental, self-administered overdose of barbiturates, phencyclidine, and methaqualone, which is like a quaalude. And the phencyclidine is the slang, well, angel dust is the slang term for that. Therefore, the mode of this death is classified as accident. A photo of Anissa at the scene by Deputy Coroner Thomas is included in her official file. The heretofore described envelope and the decedent's personal effects were mailed to the decedent's mother at her request. A machine copy of the envelope is included in her official file. So it is considered an accident. The place of death, Oceanside, California, on August 28, 1976. Her body was found at 11:30 a.m. Now, the coroner's report is not that interesting, actually. Say nowadays, they probably go into a lot more detail, but I'll just go over some of them. The external examination, it does say that the body is that of an embalmed, well-developed, well-nourished Caucasian female, appearing much younger than the stated age of 18. So it's the very next day. So she wasn't embalmed. It's sort of interesting that they say embalmed, unless it's some sort of technical thing that I'm not aware of. The body weighs 81 pounds. The body length is 57 1/2 inches. She had blue eyes and brown hair. The eyes, ears, nose, and mouth are unremarkable. The neck, upper extremities, thorax, abdomen, external genitalia, lower extremities, and dorsum of the body exhibit no significant abnormalities. No needle marks are found on any of the skin surfaces. And there's a lot of internal examination. The stuff that interested me was the gastrointestinal system, because I find it interesting, the last thing that people eat. But there's not much here. The esophagus shows small areas of reddish discoloration in the distal portion. The stomach contains approximately 100 cc's of brownish fluid. The small bowel and colon are grossly normal. So there's no information about what she may have eaten. Central nervous system, skeletal system, well developed, consistent with that of an adult female. The skeleton is consistent, yeah. So they took samples and examined them of certain parts of her, microscopes of tiny bits of her lung show congestion and edema. Liver, normal architecture. Pancreas, no significant lesion. Kidney, no significant lesion. Cerebrum, no significant lesion. The cause of death is determined to be barbiturate, phencyclidine, and methaqualone poisoning. No blood alcohol detected, morphine not detected, barbiturates Detected gastric content, 9.0 milligrams total. Nasal swabs present. And lots of the phencyclidine was found in her blood, liver, kidney, lung, urine, gastric content, and not detected in her brain. Her death certificate is here. I'll post it so you'll see it completely. The first one says pending, and that is the, that well, she was cremated. The first thing says she was cremated and scattered at sea at Pacific Crest Crematory in Redondo Beach. It has her occupation, Columbia Broadcasting Company. Discovered at 12:27 p.m. on the 28th of August, 1976. They couldn't tell when she actually died, so they put in here as the when her body was discovered. And then, the autopsy and the toxicology was done. And again, barbiturate, phencyclidine, and methaqualone poisoning. So, rest in peace, Anissa Jones. She was 18 years old. So now I'll tell you more about where she lived at the time of her death, and stay tuned for Buffy's secret recipe. Okay, so we're in Playa del Rey right now. We're going to see the last home, not her death house, but the last home of Anissa Jones, who played Buffy on The Family Affair, who died several miles from here back in the day when she was 18 years old. Now, I've been out here before, and I took some photographs, but this time I wanted to try to commemorate it by taking a cast of it. So if I remember correctly, it's on our left. I'm going to get out for a second. Oh, actually, I'm going to park and walk over there, and I'll tell you how it goes. Now, this house on the right was her apartment number 100, where she lived with her brother and her mother. I'm with my buddy Steve here in Marina Del Rey. My friend Steve, who I'm glad he's alive. He's been going through a rough time. But we're here to celebrate Buffy. Playa del Rey is where we are. And I've been here many, many years ago. But we're here to commemorate Buffy, Anissa Jones. And actually, she commemorated herself exactly where we are right now. We're going to take a clay print of Anissa's signature in cement today. And our witnesses are Mrs. Beasley and Buffy. So I'm gonna Steve, you're gonna hold on to this camera. Let's see if you can get me in here. I don't know if this is gonna work. I've been wanting to do this for several years. And I got this modeling clay. I'm hoping this will work.
Did we get the rolling pin?
No, I'll use a
spatula.
Yeah, I have a can of window washer stuff.
Nice.
So try that. Okay. 2 of these. Hopefully that'll be enough. So I'm hoping that these are going to dry and be preserved. Oops.
People are looking out the window going, what the hell is going on out there?
Probably. Yeah,
But that's cool. You
guy
know?
playing with dolls out here. Boy, I sure hope this works.
There's nothing wrong with that.
Well, I'm gonna use the other one. I don't want to. This is a total experiment. Maybe it has to sit for a while. It might be too thin on that side. I don't know if this is going to be successful.
It's going to be fine. I wish I had something brilliant to say to keep, you know, because it's weird.
No, I don't think it's going to work. Because it's so thin, you know?
Yeah.
Maybe, well, I'll try it again. Try it again. I can't even hardly see it now. Well, this has been an experiment anyway.
Oh, yeah, but it's been fun. It's been fun. So don't.
I wanted to try this for years.
Yeah. If she had just printed a little bit better, you know, a little bit deeper, it would have been fine. She just wasn't thinking that almost 50 years later we'd want this.
Maybe I should let it sit for a little bit.
Yeah, let it sit for about 5 minutes.
Let's see if there's a garbage bin. I'll go put this in the garbage.
Sure. Okay, we're going to let this kind of sit for a couple of minutes and see if we can get a better representation of it. Who knows? It's all an experiment.
Well, this was a failed attempt at getting these a copy of this, because you could see it just didn't sit, and so maybe another time, but it was a try. We're in Playa del Rey at the Yum Yum Donuts where Anissa Jones used to work. And we're bringing Buffy and we're going in. I don't know, just that one. Chocolate one at the bottom.
Okay.
What do you think?
One or two?
Just one. Just one.
Just one?
Yeah. Here's the Buffy cookbook that was published in 1971. And it describes Anissa. Let's see what it says here. It actually describes Buffy. Buffy's cookbook. Buffy is that adorable little girl who appears on the Family Affair television series. She has thousands and thousands of fans, and they love her. Buffy has many hobbies besides cooking. She enjoys putting on plays for the neighborhood children. She has a collection of miniature troll dolls. She likes to write stories and poems and to knit when she has the time. She's a Girl Scout, too. In real life, Bussy... In real life, Buffy is played by Anissa Jones, pronounced Anissa Jones. Her name is Anissa, Lebanese, and means little friend. Buffy's cookbook contains over 150 delicious, easy-to-make recipes that every youngster will enjoy preparing and serving, and an adult. Now, I went straight to the soups and sandwiches section of Buffy's cookbook. You can use a can of soup or a package of dried soup mix. Your canned soup is a liquid or creamy soup that you mix with water or milk while cooking. The packaged soup contains tiny soup-flavored flakes that you mix with water while cooking. Either way, they're good tasting. Carefully read the instructions on the can or the package. This recipe today is for chicken noodle soup with vegetables. Top range recipe serves 4. Now today, I've got my ingredients in front of me. And to help me is my collection of Family Affair paper dolls that someone sent me several years ago. And if you look in front of me, you'll see these lovely characters. This is Sebastian Cabot, who played Mr. French. Johnny Whitaker, who played Jody. Here's Anissa, who played Buffy. Over here is Sissy by, what the heck was her name? I'm Facebook friends with her too. Kathy Garber. And Brian Keith, who played Uncle Bill. And weirdly, in his underwear. And the paper dolls. So maybe, I love this. Isn't this graphic awesome? It's such a great, and it only costs 77 cents. Tempo. I wonder where that was. And here's a collection of their clothes. But we don't care about their clothes. Oh, they must have liked that one. That one's taped. Oh, look. They got like hippie clothes. I wonder whose that was. That must have been one of the kids. I can't use these because they are like literally crumbling in my hands. There's Mr. French serving drinks in their solo cup. Those look like Dixie cups, don't they? They look like the actual, well, no, that's some kind of star design. And there's Uncle Bill's. These are fun. I just enjoy this silly stuff. So, okay. Oh, who's this? What the heck is that? That looks like a Charlie Brown thing. It's not Flat Stanley because Flat Stanley didn't exist back then. Well, that's interesting. I wonder what that was and why it's in there. Okay, so what we're going to do is put the clothes back in the box, and we're going to do the very, very complicated Buffy chicken soup recipe. And all the ingredients are laid out before me. What you need, if you want to make this on your own, a saucepan, a can opener, measuring spoon, and a stirring spoon. You need 1 can of condensed chicken noodle soup, which is, I couldn't find a normal one. It had to be like sodium less. A half can of water. So that's 5 ounces of water. 1 small can, I couldn't find the small can of mixed vegetables, so we're going to use that one. And 1 tablespoon of parsley flakes. How to do it? Open the cans. Pour the chicken soup into the saucepan. Okay, don't need an opener for that. Mmm. Okay. Then, after then the chicken noodle soup. Okay. Add water from the soup can and stir. Pour in mixed vegetables with liquid. See, I don't drain it this time. I got all that flack for not draining the Liberace recipes, but we don't drain this one. So we add the water, which is a half a can of this. They told me to use a half a can, so I just measured it out there, and we'll stir it in. Now, it's a very complicated recipe here. I will open up this, which is the mixed vegetables, and it said to use a small can, so I will use a half a can of this, and I don't drain it, so let's see. Yeah. This is supposed to be all great, easy to do. Guess again. Okay, I'll do this. Now, I don't want to use the whole thing, all the liquid, so I'll just use half of it. That looks like about half, along with the liquid, maybe a bit more. And after that, we add a tablespoon of parsley flakes. Now, one thing I was taught many, many years ago is that when you use spices, I always crush them up now. I didn't know how to do that, but when you use spices, you crush them up. Is that, I don't know, I guess that would be, I don't know, bringing out the flavor, activating it more. And what next in this complicated recipe? Cook over medium heat for 5 minutes, stirring a few times. So that's where I head now. Stay tuned for the finished product. I did as I was instructed, 5 minutes, stirring occasionally. So now I'm going to put it into a bowl. I'm going to use my Hope bowl. That is a Dolly Parton official bowl. And that's how I'm going to try this. So I'm not going to show you eating it because I have an aversion to that. So I'll all these fresh products in here, all the fresh chicken and fresh parsley. It's like neon green. And let me just get a little bit more of that in there. And I'm going to place it in my, this is so nice. I forget who it was that sent me this, but somebody very kindly sent me these. So for chili and for soup and stuff like that. So I'm going to try it. I'll let you know how it is as soon as I get finished. Well, the verdict is in. Buffy's chicken soup with vegetables, canned soup, and some dry parsley. I give it a solid out of 5, about a 2.5. And I'm not a connoisseur. No chef's kiss from me. It was okay. It just tastes like vegetable soup with a bit of, I don't know. Troy, what do you think? What was your verdict?
I could taste the grassiness of all that parsley.
Yeah.
But yeah, basically, vegetable soup or chicken soup with a little bit of vegetable.
Yeah.
Just like it looks like.
But simple to make. And all the ingredients are probably in your cupboard already. So on behalf of, didn't we take her on a field trip down to Playa del Rey to here, to back again? She used to be on display in our museum. So Buffy's cookbook. Here's Buffy. Here's Mrs. Beasley. I think these were 67. These were made. Was it? You said
that
Troy?
one was
the dolls.
Well, I just saw the little one there, Mrs. Beasley, not the.
I have to keep my hand there because her underwear keeps falling down and it feels really, really creepy. And I'm not sure what year these were. Whitman Toys, and Buffy's book was 171. So Here we are, Vintage Toys and Buffy's Recipe. Anissa Jones, rest in peace. You're not forgot. I wish we had a place to visit you. Scattered at sea. It's always a bit disappointing. And, you know, hope you found peace. Well, this is the result from the next day. And you can see it was so light that, and it cracked as well, but it was a good first effort. So one of these days, we'll figure out how to do the reverse print and we can give it a shot. But it was a gallant effort.
You heard me.
Good night, Dick.